Now, welcome to another edition of News from Naboo with Thor's Lightning Takes. And let's get right to the news.
Okay. Ewan McGregor reveals Obi-Wan Kenobi original pitch was about Obi-Wan and Luke. And he also talks about Liam Neeson's return as Qui-Gon. Ewan McGregor has revealed the initial story for Obi-Wan Kenobi series on Disney Plus was going to focus on the Jedi Master's relationship with a young Luke Skywalker. The actor also praised the cameo of Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon, reprising the role in live action for the first time since 1999's The Phantom Menace. He was at Fan Expo in Boston, where he explained that he was initially told the series would be mainly about Obi-Wan watching over a young Luke, until there was a creative shift in the project's development. His comments indicate that he was more than happy with the change. It was going to be a story about me and Luke. It was always going to be that. And that was one of the genius moments where everyone went, wait a minute, then changed it. The creative shift towards Obi-Wan rescuing and protecting a young Leia likely happened to give Obi-Wan a reason to leave Tatooine and go on a journey across multiple planets. There has been buzz, including from McGregor himself, about a follow-up to Obi-Wan Kenobi. The series was a big success for Disney Plus, with the finale being among the most watched on Disney Plus so far.
Okay, so first of all, I love that Liam Neeson was in the series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we may have been able to use him a little more. And they say the first time he's been back in live action because he does voice, obviously, Qui-Gon in the Clone Wars a couple times, a couple different episodes. He's in Mortis, and then he's in the Yoda story arc in Season 6 as well, so... But no, I'm thrilled that Liam was back, and you could argue they should have done more with him than just kind of show up and like, what took you so long, Obi-Wan? Okay, that's not a very good Liam Neeson Qui-Gon voice, but as for the other part, I don't know that we needed either Luke or Leia. I think the good switch would have been avoiding either one of them for the series, or very minimal Luke or very minimal Leia. If I've said before, if the reason why Kenobi leaves Tatooine, and I'm not saying I even want Kenobi leaving Tatooine, but if he hears Leia's in danger and he goes and saves her quickly and that leads to something else, that's one thing. But the whole series kind of revolving around Leia or Luke is just really strange.
Yeah, I agree. I think, and I worry because they kind of go on to assume that possibly, maybe they could use this story for Season 2, but in A New Hope, Luke just kind of briefly references
that
Obi-Wan
crazy old hermit?
That crazy old Ben out in there. And then you're like, okay, so he doesn't really have much of a relationship. Yeah. It's kind of a hearsay.
Yeah, it sounds like hearsay. It sounds like he's probably come around. He probably has bumped into him, but there's been no, adventure together.
Like, they don't really know each other.
Yeah. I mean, you could just tell.
What if they mean Ben Kenobi? You know that?
Yeah. Of course I know him. He's me. It's, I mean, when they have the conversation at, Kenobi's home, he's explaining all these things to him, I just feel like, I feel like these are things he would have told Luke if he would have had this grand adventure with him. He probably would have been like, well, maybe this is a sign from the Force. I'm supposed to train the boy now. So, I don't know. It's such a strange thing. I'll probably talk more about this in a video over on my main channel. Mm-hmm. Yes, I call it the main channel again.
McGregor also expressed how excited he was to work with, Qui-Gon once again after 25 years of not working together. He said, Liam is a hero of mine. When I was growing up and wanting to be an actor, I was always watching Liam Neeson's work. And he was involved in some beautiful work as a young actor. And so to get the chance to work with him and to have this great relationship that we get to create together is fantastic. And we get the chance to work with himself again on the series right at the end. So he was real excited to get to work with him again.
I mean, how much did he actually get to work with him? That's
very briefly, but he was there.
It's one of those things where I don't even know if he needed Liam Neeson and Ewan together. I mean, you could have just filmed them separate, and I don't think anybody would have been the wiser because it's so brief and kind of...
It is. Maybe he'll be in Season 2.
And I'm not saying it's not cool that they got to work together and they're friends and he admires Liam. I'm not, trying to diminish it. I'm just saying it's kind of funny. He's making it sound like they were this... this long project together, like with the Phantom Menace, where clearly they worked together a lot, and this probably was done in an afternoon. But who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know.
I don't know.
All right, well, let's move on then to the next story. Ming-Na Wen, who played Fennec Shand, is hoping we get Book of Boba Fett Season 2, or Chapter 2, as I like to call it.
Ewan McGregor wants Kenobi 2. and wants Fett to.
Well, she's an actual fan. We know that.
No,
she was geeking out on set all over the place. She's a fan. And she's hoping for another season.
And I like the character. I've liked her character. I mean, I think she kind of maybe takes a little too center stage over Fett in the series, but I like the character. That doesn't mean I don't like it.
Should have been called Tales of Tatooine, and it would have been fine.
Could have been, yeah.
Tales of Tatooine.
All these shows, I think, should have different names. They should stop naming them after characters. Like, this is the MCU.
But that's the draw.
Yes, I guess. I mean, that's the problem. It works for the MCU, right? It works for Marvel when you just name everything after a character, so... I mean, how generic of a name is the Obi-Wan Kenobi? What does that even mean? That sounds like it should be an all-encompassing about his entire life. Instead, it's like, these 3 days I left the planet. It's like, well, why did you call it Obi-Wan Kenobi? I don't know.
Yeah, well, she has not heard anything, apparently, about one being in development, but she was also at that fan expo in Boston. She has had a very long and successful and interesting career. I mean... In 1998, she voiced Mulan in Disney's Mulan.
We better bring up Street Fighter.
No, I won't bring it up.
Come on, she's in Street Fighter.
It was a leading role in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The Cavalry.
Yeah.
It was really good in that. I liked that. And after they talked about those things that she was in, they talked about her work in Star Wars. She kind of more optimistic about her future. She wants the second season. She goes on to say, second season of the Book of Boba Fett, I hope. I never count my chickens before they hatch, because in this business, you just never know, but knock on wood, they'll be announcing that soon. I mean, it's hard to say what that could be interpreted as. It could be interpreted as maybe she has heard something, and she's like, maybe they'll announce it soon. But we don't know.
I'm sure they always leave the door open. Even with the Kenobi series, they were like, oh, it's a limited, one-time thing. But then even before it came out, Kathleen Kennedy was already like, well, if it does, if the fans want more and we find the right story, it all boils down to money, right? Is the series going to generate money? If it is, then there's a really good chance it's going to get made. If not, well, then it won't.
Well, one thing that was important about the Book of Boba Fett is how, it played such a big arc in the Mandalorian story. I mean, 3 of its episodes were very pivotal to the Mandalorian. And they have, done over and over again, they kind of cross stories. We saw, well, we didn't really see because we weren't there to see it, but the trailer at Celebration took us to Tatooine. Boba Fett is daimyo there.
Yeah.
Fennec Shand hangs out with him. Who knows? Maybe they get recruited into this Mandalorian conflict that we've got going on, or some other story.
Probably I mean, we still have this crossover series coming, right? They talked about that at the Disney Investor Day or whatever, when they had that big presentation, that there would be this crossover series. So
the more crossover they have between the shows, the better it is for them.
Yeah, and who knows if that'll actually happen, because they also announced, Rangers of the New Republic, which I think is 100% scrapped at this point. So maybe that just threw a wrench in the whole plan, and they're going to forget they ever announced that. I have no idea. And I'm talking about the crossover. But
we could always have, Mando traveled to Tatooine. He talks to Boba Fett. Yeah. Boba Fett doesn't come himself. He's got business, but he sends Fennec Shand with.
Well, sure. I think there's a lot of different things. You could have Boba showing up in the Mandalorian. You could have a Boba Fett and the Mandalorian entire series of the two together. There's a lot of things. I mean, it seems like what they want to do, right? They want to use those names instead of naming actual series. But I don't know. We had Tamora Morrison saying,
he said his character will be back. He wants redemption.
He wants redemption because he wants to be the Boba Fett I think the fans expected.
Unfortunately, he just has to leave his helmet on more often to do the fighting. So
he wanted to. He wanted to talk less and leave his. He wanted. To his credit, he really wanted to give something the fans, would have, I think, been a little more excited about, a little more of the Boba Fett we thought he was going to be, and a little less of the, I respect everyone, and I want to,
Boba Fett.
Yeah, I don't know.
I want to see more of, these characters, in any opportunity these have. I mean, whether you're watching The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, they're all even Skeleton Crew is supposed to take place during that episode between, the time period between episodes
6 and 7.
6 and 7.
Yeah, that big 30-year gap.
30-year gap. So they're giving all of this space, meaning that really watching any of those shows gives you the opportunity to learn more about any of the other characters.
Sure. I mean, I'm almost hoping Ahsoka is rather separate until it leads into Thrawn. I'm hoping we do some creative things with Ahsoka. I've said that before. Let's go to the unknown regions. Let's do Chiss Ascendancy.
Well, if she asks for help, maybe she briefly asks Mando for help, and he's like, I'm busy.
Yeah, but I mean, I understand eventually it's probably going to come back to Thrawn, and he's going to be the big threat, and maybe we will get
That'd
that
be cool.
crossover series.
Be
But
cool.
let's take a season of Ahsoka and just go find Ezra and make it weird. Not like weird, but
Let's
like.
make it weird.
But no, let's get to the unknown regions. Let's go to some new worlds and see some different things, please. I mean, not saying I haven't liked, The Mandalorian is kind of, basic, bounty hunters and stuff in Star Wars, which has been good, and it's getting bigger in the next season. But I'm not saying I don't like that classic Star Wars feel, but let's do something different, please.
But I like that classic Star Wars.
No, I do too. I love it. Obviously, I do. I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't love classic Star Wars feel, but I think it's time to do some new things with it. I really, really do. And I think it's just getting a little stale.
Wow. Stale.
I mean, you can like I said before, you can like Book of Boba Fett, you can like Kenobi. I didn't hate, everybody thinks I hate them because, I point out the things I don't like, and there were things I did. But they're just kind of they were just kind of generic stories, especially Kenobi was a very generic, this is the best you could do, as I've said before. It's a very generic story.
Weird.
There's nothing really all that special or unique. It's like you sat down for about 5 minutes, well, how about he goes and saves Leia, and he ends up fighting Vader, and then they
Boba
made
Fett
that a
was
series.
Weird because it was just some missed opportunities that could have made the series much better. Making Cad Bane the one who took out the Tuskens would have immediately made that fight feel more gravitas.
Yeah, it was an obvious thing, and they didn't go for it. That one really confused me. It's here's Cad Bane randomly, instead of actually making him a part of the story, we're just gonna have him show up and that's it.
Right. I mean, he's got history with
history.
Boba Fett. He's got history with Fennec Shan.
Yeah.
Why didn't they bring up more of that history and interconnectivity? Because that only would help them, wouldn't it? Because then people would be like, oh, there's history between those two? I should watch Bad Batch because that's where they met.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why they leave some of these cards on the table. There was no point in being like, yes, aha, we the Pikes killed the Tuskens, not the bounty hunter we hired.
Yeah. Maybe it was too obvious and they didn't want to use it. I don't know.
I don't know, but I feel like it was a missed opportunities.
Yeah.
Just all the connections that you have as the daimyo of Tatooine, and you get a bunch of kids off the streets in their really slow Vespas. I don't know.
Really slow, colorful.
I mean, maybe
Vespas.
he felt some kinship with them. Maybe he felt like they were orphans, like he was kind of I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't really get that.
I didn't get that either, but I'm gonna make it up.
He kind of ran into
something.
them on the street, and he's like, "Hey, you want to work for me?"
Oh, you're good at ripping off people, I guess.
Oh, you steal water? Oh, okay.
I'll get you off the streets. I'm stopping them from stealing water by employing them.
I guess.
Sure.
And then they were very loyal to him. That was kind of how loyal they immediately were for reasons, right?
Reasons. Well, he believed in them when nobody else would.
I guess. I don't know.
Because that's what Boba Fett does now. He collects lost souls.
That's what Boba Fett has become.
Yes. I'm sure he'll find plenty of those on Tatooine.
Oh, yes. Maybe he'll run into Luke and they'll have an adventure together.
I
3 days.
I do wonder how he would get
Okay, of
along
course.
with our friend Cobb Vanth. Because Cobb Vanth kind of wants to run his own town, but Boba Fett seems to want to run the whole planet.
Well, he's,
Or
there's
at
not
least
much
just-
on Tat. It's not a ton going on there. It's not like there's major cities all over. It's not Coruscant, right? But
Right.
there are still plenty of settlements and cities. But I thought he was going to be the new Jabba, and he didn't really seem to want to take Jabba's role as much as he wanted to be mayor of Mos Espa. I don't know. It was very strange. Mm-hmm. Not even sure what he wanted or why, other than
Why does he even have a mayor when they have a crime lord boss? Why does the crime lord boss we should have a mayor too, so I can be more corrupt, and I can corrupt the mayor?
I don't know.
What's the point of having the mayor if everyone eventually just talks to the daimyo? If Jabba's really in charge and everyone knows that, what's the point of having a mayor?
To have the
So
bureaucracy,
when the Empire
illusion
comes,
of-
they can go, there's the mayor, talk to him.
the illusion of choice that I guess they elect their own mayors. I don't know if there's a
I think
democratic
that
process
everyone who
in
lives
Mos
there
Espa.
probably knows.
I'm sure they do.
I think you've rambled enough.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's all we got for you this time. So take to the comments below. Tell us what you think of today's news. Do you think Kenobi should have been about him and Luke, or him and Leia, or neither? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.